How did a hood rat like you end up driving this stolen car? Officer Mercer's voice cut low and sharp as he slammed Nia Brooks against the hood of her own $100,000 sports car, the impact sending a dull echo through the metal she'd spent nights perfecting. The flawless ceramic coating she'd polished by hand was now streaked with dust from his uniform as his palm pressed her cheek harder into it. "That's my car," Nia said, breath tight but controlled, her keys still caught between her fingers. Rourke glanced at the registration she pointed to, saw it, hesitated, and let it slip into the gutter without a word. Mercer tightened the cuffs until they bit deep. "Save it for the station." Nia didn't struggle. She just stood there, cuffed beside everything she'd earned, while Mercer kept talking, never realizing he was handing this 19-year-old the legal grounds for a $5 million settlement that would dismantle his entire department. Before continuing, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you can't miss. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across Nia Brooks's driveway as she pulled in after a long day at work. Her muscles ached from hours hunched over paperwork, finalizing a major deal that would help expand her luxury car detailing business. She'd stopped by her garage to collect some documents, and now all she wanted was to get inside and call her aunt with the good news about the storefront space she'd been eyeing. The black luxury sports car sat half visible near the open garage, its metallic paint catching the golden light. Nia smiled, remembering how her father had taught her the value of keeping everything pristine. She'd spent the weekend carefully detailing it herself, making sure every inch gleamed. As she stepped out of her other car, phone pressed to her ear, she heard her aunt's excited voice. "Baby girl, you're really doing it. Your daddy would be so proud." The screech of tires cut through their conversation. Two police cruisers swung into her driveway at alarming speed, boxing her in. Before Nia could process what was happening, car doors flew open. "Drop the phone. Hands where we can see them." Officer Mercer's voice boomed across the quiet suburban street. He charged toward her, his face already red with aggression, while Officer Rourke flanked from the other side. "Wait, what's—" Nia started, but rough hands grabbed her arms. The phone clattered to the ground, her aunt's voice still calling out in confusion. They spun her around and slammed her against the side of her sports car. The impact knocked the wind from her lungs. "This vehicle has been reported stolen," Mercer barked, his breath hot against her ear. "You want to explain what you're doing with it?" "This is my car," Nia managed, fighting to keep her voice steady despite the shock. She could feel the keys digging into her palm. "I own it. The registration." "Sure you do," Mercer sneered, tightening his grip. "Just like you own this house, right?" Rourke stood slightly back, his face a mask of professional detachment. "Ma'am, we've had reports of a vehicle matching this description." "Because it's my vehicle," Nia insisted, her heart pounding. "The registration is in the glove box. My ID matches this address. I have the keys right here." Movement caught her eye. Across the street, Gloria Pike stood in her manicured yard, arms folded across her designer blouse, watching the scene unfold with poorly concealed satisfaction. Nia had seen that look before, in all the small moments since moving in, the sidelong glances, the whispered comments, the way Gloria clutched her purse tighter when they passed on the sidewalk. "Stop resisting!" Mercer shouted, though Nia hadn't moved. His knee pressed harder into the back of her leg. "I'm not resisting," she said, struggling to stay calm like her father had taught her. "I'm trying to show you proof." Phones appeared in windows and doorways up and down the street. Neighbors she'd tried so hard to win over were filming her humiliation, their faces a mix of shock and something darker, as if their suspicions were finally confirmed. "Young lady," Mercer growled, "you better start explaining how someone your age comes to possess a $100,000 vehicle." The words stung worse than the hands holding her. Through hard work, careful saving, and her inheritance, she'd built something real. But none of that mattered now. All they saw was a young black woman who didn't fit their image of success. "I run a luxury car detailing business," she said, forcing each word out clearly despite the pressure on her chest. "I bought this car legally. Everything you need to verify that is right inside." "Oh, you run a business?" Mercer's tone dripped with mockery. "What kind of business pays for this kind of car, exactly?" A small crowd had gathered now. She could hear murmurs, the clicks of phone cameras, the sound of her life's work being reduced to suspicious whispers. Gloria Pike had moved closer, speaking in low tones to another neighbor while pointing at the scene. "The registration," Nia repeated, clinging to procedure like a lifeline. "Just check the glove box." "Please." "We'll get to that," Mercer said. He shifted his grip, and Nia felt the cold bite of metal against her wrist. "First, you're going to explain why you're being so uncooperative." "Uncooperative!" The word burst out before she could stop it. "I'm telling you how to verify." "Watch your tone," Mercer snapped. "Rourke, get the cuffs. This one wants to do things the hard way." Nia's chest tightened as she heard Rourke move behind her. The keys in her hand, the keys to her own car, bought with her own money, pressed painfully into her palm. She'd done everything right. She'd built something real. And now, in her own driveway, none of that mattered. "The registration," she said one more time, her voice shaking with a mixture of fear and fury. "It's right there in the glove box. Just look." "That's enough." Mercer's voice rose to ensure the growing audience could hear. "You had your chance to cooperate." He nodded to Rourke, and Nia felt the second officer step closer with the handcuffs. The metal gleam of her car, once a source of pride, now reflected a scene she never imagined. Her own distorted image, pinned and powerless, while her neighbors watched her world fall apart. Rourke moved toward the passenger door of the sports car, his movements deliberately measured. "I'll check the documentation," he announced, maintaining his professional facade, while Mercer continued to pin Nia against the vehicle's gleaming surface. "Registration's in the glove compartment," Nia said through gritted teeth, struggling to stay composed despite Mercer's increasingly painful grip. "Insurance documents, too. Everything's there." The growing crowd of neighbors had their phones raised, recording every second. Gloria Pike had edged closer to get a better view, her designer handbag clutched to her chest like a shield. The late afternoon sun cast harsh shadows across the driveway, making the scene feel even more surreal. "Keep still," Mercer ordered, though Nia hadn't moved. His fingers dug deeper into her arm. "One wrong move, and things get worse." "Worse than being assaulted in my own driveway?" Nia couldn't keep the edge from her voice. The words earned her a rough shake that made her shoulder burn. "That mouth isn't helping your situation," Mercer snapped. Rourke retrieved the documents from the glove compartment, methodically spreading them out on the car's hood. His eyes moved between the papers and the vehicle's VIN number visible through the windshield. The seconds stretched like hours as he compared everything. "Registration matches," Rourke finally said, his voice carefully neutral. "VIN confirms it. The vehicle is registered to Nia Brooks at this address." For one blessed moment, relief flooded through Nia's body. This nightmare would end. They'd have to let her go. The truth would set everything right. But Mercer's grip didn't loosen. "Could be fraudulent documents," he declared, loud enough for the watching crowd to hear. "And she's been nothing but uncooperative since we arrived." "Uncooperative?" Nia's voice rose in disbelief. "I told you from the start this was my car. I offered to show you proof. How is that uncooperative?" Mercer responded by twisting her arm higher behind her back. Pain shot through her shoulder, and she couldn't suppress a cry of distress. "Stop resisting!" he shouted, though she'd done nothing but react to his escalating force. "I'm not resisting!" Nia's words came out strained. "You're hurting me! The car is mine! You just confirmed it!" More phones appeared in the growing crowd. Someone muttered, "This ain't right." Another voice whispered, "Should we do something?" Rourke stood by the hood, still holding the registration papers, uncertainty flickering across his face. "Mercer, maybe we should—" "She's been combative from the start." Mercer cut him off. "Arguing, making accusations, refusing to comply. And now we've got suspicious documentation that needs verification." "The documentation is real," Nia protested. "Call it in. Check the system. Everything's legal." Gloria Pike's voice carried from the edge of the driveway. "I told you something wasn't right about her living here." The words stung like a physical blow. Mercer shifted his grip, making Nia gasp. "You hear that? Neighbor's been concerned about you for a while. Where'd you really get this car, huh?" "I bought it. With my own money. From my business." Each sentence came out sharper than the last, as fear gave way to fury. "You can verify everything." "Oh, we will," Mercer assured her with dark satisfaction. "Down at the station." "Rourke, cuff her." Rourke hesitated for just a moment, glancing between the legitimate registration papers in his hands and his partner's determined face. Then he tucked the documents into his pocket and reached for his handcuffs. "Please," Nia tried one last time. "This is my property. I'm standing in my own driveway. You have the proof right there." The metal cuffs felt ice-cold against her wrists. Each click of the ratchets echoed in her ears like gunshots. "Nia Brooks," Mercer announced with theatrical authority, clearly playing to his audience of neighbors. "You're under arrest for suspected auto theft, possession of possibly fraudulent documents, and resisting officers in the performance of their duties." "This is wrong," Nia's voice cracked. "You know this is wrong." More neighbors had gathered. Phones recorded everything. Through tears of rage and humiliation, Nia saw Gloria Pike smirking. She saw curtains twitching in windows. She saw the careful distance her other neighbors maintained, their faces showing discomfort, but not enough to make them speak up. The handcuffs bit into her skin as Mercer adjusted them unnecessarily tight. The same hands that had lovingly detailed this car, that had built a successful business, that had earned every inch of her success, were now bound behind her back. The registration papers that proved her ownership sat ignored in Rourke's pocket, while they treated her like a criminal. "Watch your head," Mercer said with exaggerated politeness, as he began forcing her toward the patrol car, making sure everyone could see her being taken away. Each step felt like surrendering something precious: her dignity, her security, her belief that doing everything right would protect her. The growing crowd parted to let them pass. Some looked away, unable to meet her eyes. Others filmed openly, their phones following her journey of shame. The beautiful car that had represented all her hard work now loomed in her peripheral vision like a betrayal, its gleaming surface reflecting back the scene of her humiliation in fractured pieces. The handcuffs bit into Nia's wrists as Mercer marched her down her own driveway. Each step crunched against the concrete, marking another moment of dignity stripped away. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the suburban street, turning everything sharp and harsh. "Ma'am, are you sure this girl doesn't work for you?" someone called out to Gloria Pike. "Maybe as household help?" Gloria adjusted her designer sunglasses, her voice dripping with performative concern. "Oh no, she claims she actually lives here. In this neighborhood? Can you imagine? I've been telling the HOA board for months something wasn't right. I do live here." Nia's voice rang out clear and strong despite her situation. "This is my house. That's my car. Everything I own, I earned." "Stop making a scene," Mercer commanded, giving her arm another unnecessary twist. "Nobody's buying your story." More neighbors emerged from their homes, drawn by the commotion. Phones appeared everywhere like fireflies at dusk, their camera lenses catching every moment of her humiliation. The teenage boy from 3 houses down had positioned himself perfectly, his steady hand capturing everything in crisp detail. "I can prove everything," Nia insisted, keeping her voice level despite the growing pressure on her arm. "My business records, bank statements, purchase documents." "Oh, now you want to cooperate?" Mercer's voice boomed over hers, deliberately drowning out her words. Should have thought about that before getting an attitude. I never had an attitude. I've been trying to show you proof since you arrived. A small group of onlookers had gathered near Mrs. Chen's rose bushes, their whispers carrying on the evening air. That car costs more than my annual salary, one woman muttered. Had to be something fishy. The registration is right there in Officer Rourke's pocket, Nia called out to the crowd, desperate for someone to acknowledge the truth. The VIN matches. Everything's legal. Rourke kept his eyes fixed on the ground, methodically following behind his partner. The papers in his pocket might as well have been blank for all the good they were doing. They passed Gloria Pike's perfectly manicured lawn. She had positioned herself like a queen holding court, surrounded by a small cluster of neighbors who hung on her every word. I hated to make that call, she announced loudly enough for everyone to hear, but we have to protect our community. You understand how it is. When you see something suspicious, the only suspicious thing here is how quickly you assumed I was a criminal. Nia shot back, earning another rough shake from Mercer. Keep running that mouth, he warned. We can add more charges. More phones emerged. Some neighbors had the decency to look uncomfortable, but none stepped forward. The teenage boy with the camera had circled around to capture a better angle, making sure to get both Nia's face and Mercer's aggressive handling in the same frame. Someone, please call my aunt, Nia tried again, her voice carrying across the perfectly trimmed lawns. Her number's in my phone. She can verify everything. Quit trying to work the crowd, Mercer snapped. They had reached the patrol car now. The metal of the vehicle gleamed dully in the fading light, its back door standing open like a mouth ready to swallow her. Gloria's voice carried from her perch by the mailbox. I suppose we'll finally get some peace and quiet around here. No more of that loud car at all hours. That loud car is mine. Nia's frustration burst through. I detail luxury vehicles for a living. I run a legitimate business. Everything I own is documented. Watch your head, Mercer commanded with exaggerated politeness, his hand pressing down on her crown as he forced her toward the car's open door. The gesture was deliberately theatrical, performed for the audience of phones and whispers. Nia resisted the pressure just long enough to turn her head toward the crowd, one last time. Remember what you're seeing. Remember how quick you were to assume. Remember how easy it was to ignore the truth. That's enough, Mercer growled, shoving her harder toward the opening. Rourke finally spoke, his voice barely above a murmur. Take it easy, Mercer. You want to coddle her? Be my guest, but she's going in that car. The leather back seat loomed before her. Nia caught one final glimpse of her beautiful home, her meticulously maintained yard, the garage where she ran her business. All the things she'd worked so hard to build, now twisted into props in someone else's story about what she couldn't possibly own. The teenage boy had his phone trained steadily on the scene, capturing every second. Other cameras followed, their artificial eyes recording her lowest moment from every angle. Gloria Pike stood with her hand pressed theatrically to her chest, the very picture of concerned citizenship, while spreading poison with every whispered aside. In you go, Mercer commanded, applying more pressure until Nia had no choice but to duck her head and enter the vehicle. The handcuffs made it awkward and painful to maneuver into the seat. No one moved to help her. The last thing Nia saw before the door slammed shut was her reflection in the car's window, a young black woman in handcuffs, being taken away from her own property, while her neighbors documented every second. Behind her reflection, phones continued to rise, their lenses catching the light like judging eyes. The door's heavy thunk sealed her inside, muffling the murmur of the crowd, but not silencing it completely. Through the glass, she could still see Gloria Pike holding court, could still see the teenage boy's steady filming, could still see all the neighbors who would rather record her humiliation than speak up about the truth. The fluorescent lights of the police station buzzed overhead as Officer Rourke led Nia through the metal detector. Her hands were still cuffed behind her back, making even simple movements awkward and uncomfortable. The evening shift workers barely glanced up from their desks, as if a young woman in handcuffs was just another mundane sight. "Stand here," Mercer commanded, positioning her against a gray wall for booking photos. His voice carried the same aggressive edge it had in her driveway. "Face forward." The camera flash popped 3 times. Front, left, right. Each burst of light felt like another piece of her dignity being stripped away. Nia kept her expression neutral, refusing to give them the satisfaction of seeing her break. "Fingerprints next," a bored-looking clerk announced. They finally removed the handcuffs. Nia's wrists were red and tender. One by one, they pressed her fingers into the ink pad, then onto the cards. Black smudges marked her skin like accusations. "Name?" the clerk asked, not looking up from his computer. "Nia Brooks." "Age?" 19. "Address?" "The house you just arrested me in front of," Nia replied evenly. 1842 Oakwood Drive. Mercer stepped closer, looming over her. "Watch the attitude." "It's not attitude, it's a fact." From across the room, she heard laughter. 2 officers were huddled around a phone, watching something with obvious amusement. With a sickening jolt, Nia realized it was probably footage of her arrest. "Hey, Mercer," one called out. "You're trending." More laughter followed. Mercer smirked, clearly pleased with himself. He settled behind a desk and began typing his report, speaking each word with exaggerated clarity. Subject displayed immediate hostility, made aggressive movements, refused to comply with lawful commands. "That's not what happened," Nia protested. "I was calm. I showed you proof of ownership." "You can tell that to your lawyer," Mercer replied without looking up. "If you can afford one." A young officer hurried past, phone in hand. "Chief wants to see you, Mercer. The video's getting attention." "What video?" Mercer demanded. "Some kid posted it. It's everywhere now." Nia remembered the teenage boy who'd filmed everything. She felt a mix of relief and dread. Relief that there was evidence, dread at how public this humiliation had become. They led her to a holding cell. The metal bench was cold through her clothes. On the other side of the bars, she could hear snippets of conversation and see officers gathered around computers. "Look at these comments," someone said. "Police harass innocent black business owner. They're making it racial already." "Here's a better one," another voice replied. "How did she afford that car? Something's not right. At least some people get it." Nia closed her eyes, trying to block out their voices. She thought of her father, what he would say if he could see this happening. "Keep your head high, baby girl. Don't let them see you break." Hours crawled by. Her phone had been confiscated, so she couldn't check the time or call anyone. The holding cell lights never dimmed. Outside, she heard shift changes, radio chatter, phones ringing. Officers walked past without acknowledging her presence. "Brooks," a voice finally called. A different officer stood at the cell door. "Your car's registration and insurance checkout? We're releasing you." No apology, no explanation. Just a bored bureaucrat going through motions. They returned her belongings in a plastic bag. Phone, keys, wallet. Her phone was dead now, leaving her wondering how many missed calls and messages waited. "Sign here," the desk sergeant instructed, sliding over a form. "This acknowledges receipt of your personal items." As Nia signed, she heard Mercer's voice from somewhere behind her. "Make sure that report stays as written. We don't need another PR headache." "You mean like the one you just caused?" Rourke's voice replied quietly. "That video's got 500,000 views already." Walking toward the station exit, Nia caught fragments of news playing on a breakroom TV. Controversial arrest in suburban neighborhood. Luxury vehicle dispute. Viral video raising questions. She pushed open the heavy glass doors and stepped outside. The night air hit her face, but instead of feeling like freedom, she was immediately assaulted by camera flashes. A small crowd of reporters had gathered, microphones extended. "Ms. Brooks, can you comment on your arrest?" Did you expect this kind of treatment in your neighborhood? What do you say to people questioning how you acquired the vehicle? Is this a case of racial profiling? The questions came rapid fire, lights flashing in her eyes. News vans were parked along the curb, their satellite dishes reaching into the dark sky. Her private nightmare had become public spectacle. Through the glass doors behind her, Nia could see officers watching, some smirking, others looking concerned about the media presence. Mercer stood in the background, arms crossed, his face dark with barely contained anger at the attention. Camera lights continued to flash, turning the simple act of leaving the police station into another kind of interrogation. Reporters pressed closer, hungry for sound bites, eager to turn her humiliation into the next viral story. The night air felt thick with their questions and assumptions, every flash of light another reminder that this wasn't over. It was just beginning to spread. The living room felt too quiet after the chaos of the day. Nia sat on the couch, still wearing the same clothes from her arrest, while her Aunt Denise paced behind her. The local news played on TV, its blue glow filling the darkened room. "Breaking news tonight," the anchor announced. Questions surround a controversial arrest in the Oakwood neighborhood after police detained a young woman they suspected of auto theft. The footage showed Nia being pushed against her car, but the angle made it look like she was resisting. Her stomach churned as she watched herself being handcuffed. Police responded to reports of suspicious activity, the anchor continued. The subject was released after questioning, but concerns remain about— "Turn it off," Nia said quietly. "Please." Denise clicked the remote, plunging them into silence. "Baby, you need to try to rest." "I can't." Nia's phone buzzed again. The 100th notification that hour. She picked it up, scrolling through messages from clients and business partners. "So sorry to see what happened. Need to put our collaboration on hold. Have to protect our brand image. We'll revisit when situation resolves." Each message felt like another blow. The luxury resale business she'd built so carefully was unraveling in real time. 3 years of work, all her father's lessons about saving and investing, the reputation she'd earned, all of it threatened because 2 officers decided she didn't belong in her own driveway. "They're making me look like a criminal," Nia said, her voice tight. "The car is mine. I showed them proof. I did everything right." Denise sat beside her, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "I know, baby. I know you did." Nia's phone buzzed again. This time, it was a news alert. The police department had posted their official statement online. Her hands shook as she opened it. Officers responded appropriately to a credible complaint. She read aloud. The subject became confrontational and displayed aggressive behavior requiring restraint. Her voice cracked. "That's a lie. That's a complete lie." She pulled up Officer Mercer's incident report, which had already been uploaded to the public database. The formal language couldn't hide his contempt. Subject exhibited immediate hostility, made sudden aggressive movements, refused multiple lawful commands, demonstrated escalating belligerent behavior. "He's lying," Nia whispered. "He's lying about all of it, and they're letting him." "I know you're angry," Denise said carefully. "But maybe we should focus on moving forward. These people have power. They can make things worse." Nia stood up abruptly, breaking away from her aunt's embrace. "That's what they're counting on. That's exactly what they want. For me to be scared and back down." She thought of her father, how he'd taught her to detail cars in his garage, how to build something from nothing, how to carry herself with dignity no matter what. He'd always said, "Nobody can take your truth if you stand firm in it." "I won't let them write my story," Nia said. "I won't let them turn me into whatever they want me to be." She went to her laptop and started searching, fingers flying across the keyboard. Within minutes, she found what she needed. Contact information for Lena Whitaker, a civil rights attorney known for taking on police misconduct cases. "Nia, it's almost midnight," Denise protested. "I'm sending her everything now." "The video," The reports, screenshots of the cancellations. All of it. Nia's voice was steady as she typed. They think I'm just some kid they can push around. They have no idea who they're dealing with. 20 minutes later, her phone rang. Unknown number. Ms. Brooks? A sharp, professional voice came through the speaker. This is Lena Whitaker. I received your materials. Thank you for calling so late, Ms. Whitaker. I've reviewed the video and the incident report. The discrepancies are significant. Papers rustled in the background. Walk me through exactly what happened before they approached you. For the next 30 minutes, Nia detailed everything. Gloria Pike watching from across the street, Mercer's immediate aggression, Rourke finding proof of ownership but proceeding with the arrest anyway. The video shows clear excessive force, Lena said. The report contains demonstrably false statements. The arrest itself was unlawful once ownership was verified. But there's more here. The department's statement proves they're actively trying to cover this up rather than correct it. What does that mean? It means they're vulnerable. This isn't just about two officers making a mistake. This is about institutional protection of misconduct. Lena's voice grew sharper. Ms. Brooks, do you understand what you'll be taking on if we pursue this? They will attack your character. They will dig through your life. They will try to break you. They already tried that today, Nia replied. I'm still here. Good answer. A pause. Based on the violations I've identified, unlawful arrest, excessive force, false reporting, defamation, civil rights violations, emotional and financial damages, I believe we should file notice of intent to sue for $5 million. Denise gasped from the couch. Nia gripped the phone tighter. That's a lot of money, she said carefully. It's not about the money, Lena replied. It's about making them face real consequences. Small settlements, let them pretend it was just a misunderstanding. $5 million forces them to answer for everything. The profiling, the lies, the cover-up. Are you prepared for that fight? Nia looked at her aunt, who nodded slowly, finally understanding this wasn't just about one afternoon's humiliation. Yes, Nia said firmly. I'm ready. Morning sunlight streamed through the windows of Lena Whitaker's downtown office as she and Nia reviewed the final details of their legal notice. The polished conference room felt worlds away from yesterday's humiliation in the driveway. But Nia's hands still trembled slightly as she signed her name. Once I file this, Lena said, there's no going back. The city will come at us hard. I understand. Nia straightened her spine, smoothing her blazer. She'd dressed carefully today, professional, polished, impossible to dismiss. Lena gathered the documents, her heels clicking against hardwood as she walked to her assistant's desk. Send these to City Legal immediately. Priority delivery. Within an hour, local news alerts started buzzing. The police department had already issued a response, faster than anyone expected. They're scared, Lena observed, pulling up the statement on her laptop. Nia leaned forward to read. The department stands by the professional conduct of our officers in this incident. While we recognize Ms. Brooks's right to pursue legal action, we maintain that all procedures were followed appropriately when responding to a credible suspicious activity report. Any claims of misconduct are unfounded. Professional conduct? Nia's voice cracked. They slammed me against my own car. Her phone vibrated. A text from her aunt with a link to a live morning show interview. Gloria Pike sat perfectly composed in a designer suit, hands folded in her lap as she spoke to the sympathetic host. I've lived in this neighborhood for 20 years, Gloria said, her voice dripping with practiced concern. When you see unusual activity, you have a responsibility to your community. I simply did what any concerned citizen would do. And you had no idea the car belonged to your neighbor? The host asked. I'd seen that young woman around, yes. But the vehicle seemed… Gloria paused delicately. Inconsistent with what we normally see. I believe in being cautious. Better safe than sorry. Nia's jaw clenched. Inconsistent? I've lived there for 3 years. She's watched me build my business from home. She's trying to control the narrative, Lena said, taking notes. Make herself look reasonable, while implying you don't belong. More alerts popped up. The police union released a statement backing Officers Mercer and Rourke, praising their quick response to community concerns. The department confirmed both officers would remain on active duty during any review. They're not even pretending to investigate, Nia said quietly. Her phone kept buzzing, but now with different messages. Business clients canceling appointments, partner brands re-evaluating their relationships. The luxury consignment forum where she'd built her reputation was flooded with concerned comments. My whole reputation was based on trust, Nia explained to Lena. People let me handle expensive items, manage authentication, coordinate high-value sales. Now, when they search my name, she pulled up social media. The video of her arrest had millions of views. Comment sections overflowed with arguing strangers. Some defended her, but others picked apart every detail. Her clothes, her car, her business, her attitude. She seems pretty aggressive here. How does a teenager afford that car anyway? If she didn't do anything wrong, why'd they arrest her? A local radio host had posted a segment titled "Entitlement Culture When Kids Cry Wolf," mocking her lawsuit. Gloria Pike was being quoted in multiple articles about neighborhood safety and responsible reporting. Nia's phone rang, another business partner calling to pause their relationship. I understand your position, she said mechanically, using the professional voice she'd practiced for years. Yes, I respect your need to protect your brand. Of course. Thank you for letting me know. She ended the call and opened her business banking app. The morning's cancellations were already visible. Scheduled payments reversed, standing orders canceled. The graph of her projected income dropped sharply downward. They're trying to make the lawsuit hurt you more than it hurts them, Lena observed. Financial pressure often makes people back down. My father taught me to save, Nia said, staring at the plummeting numbers. I have emergency funds, but they're not just taking money. They're taking everything I built. My reputation, my credibility, my place in my own neighborhood. She thought of Gloria Pike's smooth interview voice, of Mercer's hands shoving her against the car, of Rourke standing by silently, of all the people who'd watched and said nothing. The department has a PR team, Lena warned. They'll keep pushing their version. The media loves a controversy. This will get worse before it gets better. Nia's phone buzzed again. Another cancellation notification, another income drop, another small piece of her business crumbling. I know, she said, closing the banking app. The numbers hurt too much to watch. But if I back down now, they win forever. Not just against me, against everyone they might target next. She thought of her father's voice. Your dignity isn't for sale. The morning sun filled Lena's office, highlighting the signed legal notice on the desk. $5 million suddenly felt like too small a number for what they were trying to take from her. Nia watched her business account balance drop again, as another client canceled. The real cost of standing up was becoming brutally clear. But she remembered the handcuffs, the lies in the report, the smirk on Gloria's face during her interview. Some prices had to be paid. Some fights couldn't be avoided. Her phone buzzed with another cancellation. The afternoon sun cast long shadows across Nia's driveway as she stood inspecting her car for damage from yesterday's incident. Her fingers traced the spot where Mercer had slammed her against the door, searching for scratches in the pristine paint. Ms. Brooks? She turned to find a young man approaching, press badge visible on his messenger bag. Her shoulders tensed. Another reporter looking for controversy. I'm Malik Turner. I was hoping we could talk. He kept a respectful distance, hands visible. I'm investigating Officer Mercer's conduct record. I've already had enough media attention, Nia said, moving toward her front door. Wait, please. Malik pulled out his phone. I have footage from 6 months ago. Different neighborhood, different circumstance. But watch how Mercer handles it. Against her better judgment, Nia paused. The video showed Mercer confronting a middle-aged black woman outside a high-end boutique. The woman held up shopping bags and a receipt. Mercer's stance was identical, aggressive, dismissive, certain of guilt before proof. That case got buried, Malik explained. The department settled quietly. But it's not the only one. Nia studied him more carefully now. He was younger than most reporters she'd dealt with, maybe late 20s, with an intensity in his eyes that spoke of purpose rather than sensationalism. Come inside, she decided. But I'm calling my lawyer first. 20 minutes later, they sat at her kitchen table with Lena Whitaker on speakerphone. Malik spread out documents showing complaint records he'd gathered through public information requests. Most never made it past initial review, he explained. But look at the pattern. Mercer responds to calls about suspicious persons in upscale areas. The targets are almost always people of color who legally belong there. He escalates quickly, ignores proof, makes arrests that don't stick. And Rourke? Lena asked through the phone. Always there as backup since becoming Mercer's partner. Never initiates, but never intervenes. The perfect witness who sees nothing wrong. Nia examined a complaint from 3 months ago. A black medical student arrested while moving into his new apartment. The language in Mercer's report was eerily familiar. Subject became combative when questioned about his presence. The department knows, Malik continued. They track complaint statistics. But Mercer's connected. Union protection, friends in internal affairs, good at writing reports that justify his actions. The system works for him. Until now, Lena said. This time he picked someone who kept records, someone who won't back down for a quick settlement. Nia spread the documents across her table. Dates, locations, similar stories stretching back years. Her single horrible day was part of something much bigger. She thought of Gloria Pike's interview, how easily suspicion became accusation, how quickly protecting the neighborhood turned into destroying lives. There's more, Malik said. I've been mapping their patrol patterns. They concentrate in areas with changing demographics, new homeowners, successful minority businesses, upward mobility. It's not random. They're policing success, Nia realized, making sure we know we're being watched, that we can be humiliated anytime. Exactly. Malik leaned forward. But most victims can't fight back. They take the settlement, sign the non-disclosure, try to move on. The pattern stays hidden. Through the phone, Lena's voice sharpened with interest. We can request full disciplinary records in discovery. If there's a documented pattern of bias, the department will fight hard to keep those sealed, Malik warned. Let them, Nia said quietly. Everyone turned to her. Let them fight. Let them deny. Let them show exactly how much they want to hide. She stood and walked to her father's photo on the wall. He'd taught her to keep every receipt, document every transaction, protect herself with paper trails. She'd thought it was just business sense. Now she understood. It was armor against a world that would try to erase her truth. How many others didn't have proof, she asked. How many just had their word against his badge? Too many, Malik answered. But with your case, your evidence, your lawsuit, we could expose the whole pattern, make it impossible to ignore. Lena's voice held a note of caution. It would be a bigger fight, Nia. More attention, more pressure, more retaliation. The department protects its own. They're already trying to destroy my business, Nia said. Already calling me a liar. Already making me doubt myself. She turned back to the table covered in complaint records. At least this way it means something bigger. Malik watched her carefully. You don't have to decide right now. Take time to think. No. Nia sat back down, pulled the documents closer. I've seen enough. Tell me everything you know about these cases. Every detail. Every pattern. Every name. The afternoon light faded as they worked, piecing together years of hidden misconduct. Lena took notes by phone, identifying legal connections. Malik mapped incident locations, showing the strategic targeting. Nia saw her own experience reflected again and again: the sudden accusation, the ignored proof, the public humiliation, the lasting damage. As evening settled over the neighborhood, Nia walked Malik to his car. Through lit windows, she could see Gloria Pike watching, probably wondering what new trouble was brewing. "I'll help," Nia told him. "Whatever you need to expose this. Whatever it takes." Malik nodded, understanding the weight of her decision. "Tomorrow, then? We can start interviewing other victims, building the bigger picture." "Tomorrow," Nia agreed. "It's time everyone saw the truth." She watched him drive away, standing in the same spot where yesterday her world had shattered. The fear wasn't gone, but something stronger had taken root, a determination that went beyond her own justice. This wasn't just about one arrest anymore. This was about every person who'd faced Mercer's prejudice, every life disrupted by unchecked power, every truth buried under official lies. They had tried to make her small. Instead, they had given her a bigger purpose. The community center hummed with tension as residents packed the hastily organized meeting. Metal folding chairs scraped across linoleum floors, while concerned faces filled every available space. Nia sat in the back row, her Aunt Denise beside her, watching people file in. "You don't have to speak if you're not ready," Denise whispered, squeezing her hand. Nia nodded, throat tight. The events coordinator had asked if she'd share her story, but now that she was here, doubt crept in. She recognized faces from her neighborhood, some who had watched her arrest, others who had only seen the viral videos. Their curious glances made her skin prickle. Pastor Williams opened the meeting with a prayer for justice and understanding. As he spoke, more people squeezed in, standing along the walls. Nia spotted Gloria Pike's empty usual seat in the front row. The neighbor's absence spoke volumes. "We're here tonight because something happened in our community that cannot be ignored," the pastor began. "A young woman was humiliated and arrested in front of her own home. But this meeting isn't just about one incident. It's about what kind of neighborhood we want to be." He introduced the first speaker, a civil rights advocate who outlined the legal concerns. Then a retired police officer spoke about proper procedure versus what he'd seen in the footage. Their words felt distant to Nia, too academic to capture the raw reality of being slammed against her own car. "Would anyone like to share their experiences with similar situations?" Pastor Williams asked. The room fell quiet. Nia felt the weight of unspoken stories pressing down. Her heart pounded. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. "Sometimes, silence protects the wrong people." Before she could second-guess herself, Nia stood. All eyes turned to her as she walked to the front. Her legs felt unsteady, but she forced herself to stand straight, just as she had during the arrest. The microphone squealed slightly as she adjusted it. "My name is Nia Brooks," she began, her voice barely shaking. "2 days ago, I was arrested in my own driveway for driving my own car." The simple truth of those words hung in the air. Nia took a deep breath and continued, keeping her voice steady like her father had taught her. "I did everything right. I had every document. I stayed calm. I explained. But none of that mattered because Officer Mercer had already decided who I was and what I deserved the moment he saw me." She described the moment of Mercer grabbing her arm, the cold metal of handcuffs, the burning humiliation as neighbors recorded. Not with anger, but with precise detail that made the injustice impossible to ignore. "The worst part wasn't the physical force," she said. "It was realizing that in their eyes, no amount of proof could make me the rightful owner of that car. No amount of documentation could make me belong in my own driveway." Murmurs of recognition rippled through the crowd. Heads nodded. Someone said, "Amen." "They took my freedom for hours, but they tried to take my dignity forever. They wanted me to doubt myself, to feel ashamed, to stay quiet. Naya's voice grew stronger. But I am not ashamed. I earned everything I have, and I won't let them write a false story about who I am. An older woman in the third row stood up. Baby, you tell it. Same thing happened to my son last year. Different officer, same attitude. Made him sit on the curb for an hour because his car was too nice. Another voice joined in. They stopped my daughter 3 times in 1 month after she got her new job downtown. More stories poured out. Professionals harassed while shopping, students questioned entering their apartments, homeowners treated like trespassers. Each person described the same dismissive attitudes, the same ignored explanations, the same public shame. Nia listened, her own experience reflecting in dozens of others. The pattern Malik had documented came alive in human voices. They count on our silence, she said, when the stories slowed. They count on us being too hurt or too afraid to fight back. But I'm not staying silent. I'm not just suing for money. I'm suing for accountability, for change. Pastor Williams had to call for order as the room erupted in supportive shouts and applause. People stood, offering encouragement, sharing contact information, volunteering to help. The energy transformed from hurt to determination. An elderly deacon who had known her father approached the microphone. Isaiah Brooks raised you right, he said, voice thick with emotion. He'd be proud seeing you stand tall tonight. Nia hadn't expected that. Tears threatened, but she held them back. This wasn't a moment for crying. The meeting continued for another hour, with people organizing support groups and planning future actions. Nia stayed quiet, watching the community mobilize around an injustice that had finally been named aloud. When Pastor Williams finally called the meeting to a close, people lingered, clustering in passionate discussion. Nia found herself surrounded outside the community center. A young law student offered to help research cases. A retired teacher wanted to organize a letter-writing campaign. A local business owner promised to help replace lost clients. The night air felt electric with possibility. Where Nia had walked in feeling isolated, she now stood at the center of a growing movement. These weren't just supporters, they were people who understood exactly what she was fighting, because they had lived it too. You gave them their voices back, Denise said softly, appearing at her elbow. They were all carrying these stories, waiting for someone brave enough to speak first. Nia watched the gathered crowd, still buzzing with energy and purpose. Her fear wasn't gone, but it had transformed into something stronger. She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. She was fighting for every person who had swallowed their humiliation and walked away. For everyone who had been told they didn't belong in their own success. Someone started organizing a prayer circle. Others exchanged phone numbers and made plans. The crowd showed no signs of dispersing, energized by the simple power of truth, finally spoken aloud. The morning sun streamed through Lena Whitaker's office windows as she hung up the phone, a rare smile crossing her face. She immediately dialed Nia. The judge approved our motion. The department has to release all body cam footage by noon today. Nia gripped her phone tighter. All of it. Every second from both officers' cameras. They tried to argue it would compromise an ongoing investigation, but the judge wasn't buying it. Within an hour, the footage hit public servers. News stations scrambled to broadcast the clearest segments. Social media exploded with frame-by-frame analysis. The raw video painted a damning picture that no amount of police statements could explain away. Mercer's camera showed him approaching Nia's driveway with purpose, his movements aggressive from the start. The audio picked up his dismissive tone clearly. "Step away from the vehicle now." Nia's calm voice carried through the footage. "This is my car. I have registration and—" "I said step back!" Mercer's shout cut through her explanation. The most damaging segment came when Rourke retrieved the registration. His own body cam captured him clearly, reading the matching name and address. He turned to Mercer, speaking in a low voice. Registration matches. Vehicles clean. Mercer's response was immediate and crystal clear. Cuff her anyway. We'll sort it out at the station. The footage showed Nia's dignity throughout. No resistance, no aggression, just steady insistence on her rights while being manhandled. The contrast between her composure and Mercer's escalating hostility was stark. By mid-afternoon, the police department called an emergency press conference. The chief appeared uncomfortable as he announced both officers were being placed on administrative leave pending investigation. The footage raises serious concerns about proper procedure and judgment, he admitted, sweat visible on his forehead. We are conducting a thorough review of the incident. Nia watched the announcement from her living room, Aunt Denise beside her. Local news coverage split the screen between the chief's statement and clips from the body cam footage. Look at them scramble, Denise said, shaking her head. Amazing what a little sunlight can do. Nia's phone buzzed constantly with notifications. The business partnership that had paused collaboration sent an apologetic email asking to restart discussions. Former clients reached out to book new appointments. Her social media followers doubled, then tripled, with messages of support flooding in. Gloria Pike was conspicuously absent from her usual spot by her front window. A moving truck had appeared in her driveway that morning. Lena called again mid-afternoon. The police union is in damage control mode. They're trying to distance themselves from Mercer's actions. Rourke's lawyer has already reached out about possible cooperation. What does that mean? Nia asked. It means they're breaking ranks. When police start turning on each other, you know the evidence is bad. Around 4 o'clock, Malik Turner appeared at Nia's door with fresh information. Sources inside the department say Mercer's got a history of complaints being buried. 3 separate incidents of excessive force during traffic stops in the last year alone. Rourke was present for 2 of them. They gathered around Nia's kitchen table, spreading out printouts of department records and witness statements. Each piece added to the picture of systematic misconduct. Look at this pattern, Malik pointed to dates on a timeline. Every time a complaint gained traction, Mercer would suddenly have technical issues with his body cam. The footage would be incomplete or corrupted. But not this time, Nia said. No, this time they couldn't hide it fast enough. The video was already spreading before they could touch it. More news breaks followed throughout the afternoon. A city council member called for an independent review of all arrests involving Mercer and Rourke. Civil rights organizations announced plans to audit similar incidents across the department. The police chief's office released Mercer's disciplinary record, heavily redacted, but still revealing a pattern of aggression and poor judgment. By early evening, Nia sat on her back porch, scrolling through messages of support. A local car detailing association had shared her business page, praising her expertise and professionalism. The luxury brand that had distanced itself now wanted to feature her in their next campaign. How are you holding up? Denise asked, bringing out 2 glasses of iced tea. Nia accepted a glass, considering the question. The weight that had pressed on her chest since the arrest felt lighter. For the first time, she could breathe without anger catching in her throat. I feel... She paused, surprised to find her lips curving upward. Like the truth is finally winning. Your daddy always said lies can't stand the light of day. Nia nodded, watching the sunset paint her backyard in warm colors. The same view that had seemed tainted by injustice just days ago now held promise again. Her phone buzzed with another message. The community center requesting her presence at a youth empowerment workshop. The familiar sound of a luxury engine purred from next door as her neighbor returned home in his sports car. Instead of tensing, Nia lifted her glass in greeting when he waved. She belonged here. No one could take that away. What happens next? Denise asked. We keep pushing, Nia said, her smile growing stronger. Lena says this is just the beginning. There's more evidence to uncover, more stories to bring forward. She took a sip of tea, letting the sweet liquid wash away the last bitter taste of helplessness. The evening breeze carried the scent of her aunt's gardenia bushes, her father's favorite flower. She could almost hear his voice. "Stand your ground, baby girl." Truth needs someone strong enough to carry it. For the first time since Mercer's hands had grabbed her arms, Nia felt truly strong again. Not just angry, not just determined, but confident in the power of undeniable truth. The victory celebration ended with a phone call at 8:47 p.m. Nia had just finished clearing away the tea glasses when her phone lit up with Lena's name. "Turn on Channel 4 now!" Lena's voice was tight with urgency. Nia rushed to the living room, fumbling with the remote. The news anchor's face filled the screen, standing in front of police headquarters. "Breaking news tonight as additional security footage emerges, painting a different picture of Sunday's controversial arrest," the anchor announced. "We want to warn viewers that some may find this footage disturbing." The grainy video played, shot from a high angle. It showed Nia's driveway, but something was wrong. The edited clips jumped between moments, making her movements appear jerky and resistant. One segment showed her arm moving backward just as Mercer reached for her, but cut away before showing his grip, forcing her arm back. "No," Nia whispered. "That's not what happened." "They're trying to control the narrative," Lena said through the phone. "Someone leaked this selectively edited footage to muddy the waters." The anchor continued. The police union released a statement suggesting the initial body cam footage failed to capture key context. Union spokesperson James Marshall had this to say. The screen cut to Marshall, a heavy-set man in a crisp uniform. "What the public saw this morning was incomplete. This new angle clearly shows resistance and non-compliance, justifying the officer's response to a potentially dangerous situation." Nia's phone buzzed with notifications. Social media exploded with debate over the new footage. Previously supportive comments turned questioning. Some demanded she explain the resistance. "How did they get this?" Nia asked Lena. "Someone's been sitting on it, waiting for the right moment." Classic counterpunch strategy. Let us land the first hit, then come back with something that creates doubt. The news coverage continued relentlessly. Former police officers appeared as experts, analyzing the grainy frames in slow motion. They used phrases like "sudden movements" and "officer safety" and "split-second decisions." Aunt Denise came in from the kitchen, face dark with concern. "Those lying snakes," she muttered. Nia's phone chimed with an email notification. Her hands shook as she read it. "The bank," she said, voice hollow. "They're freezing the business expansion loan pending review of recent public allegations. I'm losing the storefront space." "They can't do that," Denise protested. "They can cite risk assessment," Lena said grimly. "It's a common tactic. Attack the target's financial stability to force a quick settlement." The hits kept coming. A local business group postponed Nia's speaking engagement. The luxury brand partnership went quiet again. Former classmates started giving interviews about her attitude problems in high school. Gloria Pike reappeared on the evening news, speaking from her front porch. "I've lived here 20 years. When you see suspicious behavior, you have to report it. I was just trying to protect our neighborhood." Around 10 p.m., Lena called again with worse news. "We have a problem with the body cam footage," she said. "There's a gap. Several minutes missing just before the escalation. The department claims it's a technical glitch, but they deleted it," Nia finished. "Without those minutes, they can claim anything happened off camera. It weakens our position significantly." Nia paced her living room, watching comments roll in on her business social media. Thief. Liar. Playing the victim. Each one felt like another brick in a wall being built around her. At 10:45 p.m., an email arrived from the city attorney's office. Lena forwarded it immediately. "They're offering $50,000 to settle," Lena explained. "No admission of wrongdoing, sealed agreement, mutual non-disparagement clause." "That's nothing," Nia said. "It's designed to be tempting enough to make the pain stop, but small enough to avoid real accountability. They're betting the pressure will make you fold. Denise touched Nia's shoulder. Baby, maybe we should consider— No, Nia cut her off, but then saw the worry lines around her aunt's eyes. The stress was affecting everyone she loved. Just before midnight, Nia walked out to her garage. The luxury car sat there, paint still gleaming under the fluorescent lights. She ran her fingers along the smooth metal, remembering how proud she'd felt driving it home the first time. Now it felt like a curse. Her phone kept buzzing. Another customer cancellation. Another news alert about developing questions. Another comment calling her a fraud. The garage walls seemed to close in. This space that had been her sanctuary, where she'd learned about cars at her father's side, now felt like a trap. The security cameras her father installed still blinked silently in the corners, recording everything just like they had that day. Nia sank onto the garage's workbench, staring at the car that had somehow become both symbol and weapon. Everything she'd built, the business, the reputation, the dream of expansion, was slipping through her fingers like water. She pulled up the bank's loan cancellation email again. The storefront owner had already started showing the space to other potential tenants. 3 years of careful saving and planning, gone in a day. Her phone lit up with another news alert. Questions emerge about source of funds for luxury vehicle purchase. They weren't just attacking what happened that day anymore. They were trying to destroy everything she'd ever built. Nia sat alone in the silent garage, surrounded by the tools and memories of better days, watching her future crumble in real time on her phone screen. The car's polished surface reflected back a distorted image of herself, just like the twisted story they were selling to the world. Dawn crept through the garage windows as Nia pulled another dusty box from the highest shelf. She hadn't slept, spending hours tossing and turning before giving up entirely. The garage had always been her comfort place, where her father had taught her everything he knew about cars, business, and life. Her hands trembled slightly as she opened the box. The smell of old papers and motor oil wafted up, so familiar it made her throat tight. Inside were stacks of meticulously organized receipts, warranty cards, and maintenance logs. Her father had kept records of everything. "Always keep your receipts," he used to say. "Papers don't lie, and numbers tell their own truth." Nia traced her fingers over his neat handwriting. Reverend Isaiah Brooks hadn't just been a mechanic and church deacon, he'd been a master of details. Every oil change, every part replacement, every modification to the garage itself had been documented. The garage itself. Nia's head snapped up, looking at the small security cameras still mounted in the corners. Her father had installed the original system years ago, always upgrading it piece by piece. She'd gotten so used to them, she barely noticed them anymore. Scrambling now, she pulled down more boxes. Her father's electronics were as organized as everything else. Labeled cables, instruction manuals, backup drives. In the bottom of a metal lockbox, she found what she was looking for. A hard drive labeled Security Backup, Local Storage. Her hands shook as she examined it. The garage cameras didn't just feed to the cloud system she used now. They recorded to local storage, too. Her father had always believed in redundancy. Nia grabbed her phone, punching in Malik's number. It was barely 6 a.m. He answered on the third ring, voice groggy. "Nia, what's wrong?" "I need your help. How fast can you get here?" 40 minutes later, Malik sat at her kitchen table, the hard drive connected to his laptop. His eyes were tired but alert as his fingers moved across the keyboard. "The drive's intact," he said. "But the footage is in an older format. Give me a minute to convert it." Nia paced, unable to sit still. The morning sun streamed through the windows, painting sharp rectangles on the floor. Her aunt's coffee maker gurgled in the background. "Got it," Malik said finally. "What date are we looking for?" Nia gave him the details. The footage was grainy but clear enough. The camera angle captured the entire driveway and part of the street, a view none of the other videos had shown. They watched Nia pull in that afternoon. Then Gloria Pike appeared, walking purposefully toward the arriving police cars. The audio was scratchy, but picked up her voice clearly. "That girl has no business in a car like that. Something's not right here." Mercer's response came through just as clearly. "We'll sort her out." Nia's hands clenched into fists. But there was more. The footage showed the entire sequence. Mercer approaching aggressively, the car door opening, and there, a clear shot of Mercer seeing the registration card on the seat before he grabbed her. He had known. He had seen proof of ownership and ignored it. "Play it again," Nia whispered. They watched it 3 more times. The evidence was undeniable. The camera had captured everything from an angle that showed clear intention, clear bias, clear misconduct. "This changes everything," Malik said quietly. "This isn't just excessive force or profiling anymore. This proves premeditation. They targeted you on purpose." Nia stared at the screen, watching her own humiliation play out again. But this time, she wasn't helpless. This time, she had proof. "Can you enhance the audio more?" she asked. Malik worked his technical magic, cleaning up the sound. Now they could hear even more of the exchange between Gloria and Mercer. Gloria's tone was dripping with suspicion and entitlement. Mercer's responses showed he had already decided to act before even speaking to Nia. The footage continued, showing angles of the arrest that revealed how unnecessary the force had been. Nia had never moved aggressively. The resistance they claimed in their edited security footage was clearly just her natural reaction to being grabbed roughly. "The timestamp data is intact, too," Malik noted. "They can't claim this was manipulated. And look, the footage is continuous. No gaps like their body cams." Nia sank into a chair, emotions washing over her in waves. Her father's meticulous nature, his insistence on backup systems and documentation, had given her exactly what she needed when it mattered most. "We need to get this to Lena immediately," Malik said, already pulling out his phone. But Nia sat there for a moment longer, looking at the paused image on the screen. There was Gloria Pike, self-appointed neighborhood guardian, speaking words she never thought would be heard. There was Mercer, abusing his authority with casual cruelty. There was the truth, preserved by her father's foresight. The morning sun had climbed higher, filling the kitchen with light. Outside, she could hear birds singing, cars passing, the normal sounds of a neighborhood waking up. But nothing felt normal anymore. Everything had shifted. She watched the footage one more time, absorbing every detail. The camera's unblinking eye had captured not just what happened, but why it happened. It showed the casual racism, the presumption of guilt, the deliberate abuse of power, all of it preserved in clear, irrefutable detail. Her father's voice seemed to whisper in her memory, "Always keep your receipts, baby girl. The truth will speak for itself if you give it a chance." Lena Whitaker's office was silent, except for the audio playing from her laptop. She sat perfectly still, watching the footage for the 3rd time, her expression growing harder with each viewing. Nia watched her attorney's face, seeing the exact moment when the legal strategy crystallized in her mind. "This isn't just misconduct," Lena said finally, pausing the video. "This is conspiracy, premeditated violation of rights, and most importantly, it proves they lied in official statements." She turned to face Nia directly. The morning sun streaming through the office windows caught the silver in her hair, making her look fierce and formidable. "The timing couldn't be better. We have Rourke's deposition in 2 hours. He doesn't know about this footage yet." Lena's fingers drummed once on her desk. "He's been following Mercer's lead, repeating the official story. But this changes the calculation for him completely." Nia leaned forward. "How?" "Because now we can prove they both lied. And in these situations, the first one to break usually gets the better deal." Lena began pulling files from her desk. "Rourke is younger, less established. He has more to lose in the long run. When he sees this evidence, he'll have to choose between protecting Mercer and protecting himself. The preparation moved quickly after that. Lena's team worked to enhance specific segments of the footage, creating clear still images of key moments. They focused especially on the instant when Mercer saw the registration, the exchange with Gloria Pike, and the unnecessary force used during the arrest. "Remember," Lena told Nia as they prepared to leave for the deposition, "Rourke doesn't know you're attending. Your presence alone will add pressure. Just sit there and let him feel the weight of what he did." The deposition room was small and stark, with bare walls and a long table. Rourke arrived with his union attorney, his usual controlled expression slipping slightly when he saw Nia. He sat down stiffly, avoiding eye contact. The first hour followed the expected pattern. Rourke gave careful, practiced answers about following procedure and responding to a legitimate complaint. His voice remained steady as he described Nia as uncooperative and claimed the force used was necessary. Then Lena shifted in her chair. "Officer Rourke, I'd like you to watch something." She opened her laptop, turning it to face him. "This is security footage from Ms. Brooks's garage camera system. The timestamp shows it's from approximately 2 minutes before you and Officer Mercer initiated contact." The color drained from Rourke's face as the audio played. Gloria Pike's voice, then Mercer's response. The clear view of the registration card. The unnecessary escalation. "Would you like to revise your previous statements?" Lena asked quietly. Rourke's union attorney requested a break. They left the room for 15 tense minutes. When they returned, Rourke looked like he had aged years. His attorney spoke first. Officer Rourke would like to provide additional context to his earlier testimony. What followed was the crack in the wall they had been waiting for. Rourke's composed facade crumbled as he admitted that Mercer had a history of what he called attitude arrests, detaining people who challenged his authority, regardless of actual cause. "He gets fixated," Rourke said, his voice hollow. "When someone questions him or makes him look bad, he has to prove he's in charge. He'll find a reason to arrest them, even if he has to create one." "And you witnessed this pattern?" Lena pressed. "Yes." Rourke stared at his hands. "Multiple times. Including with Ms. Brooks? We knew it was her car within minutes. The registration was right there. The VN matched. But once Dale, Officer Mercer, decided to make the arrest, backing down wasn't an option." "And you participated anyway?" Rourke's voice was barely audible. "Yes." "Why?" He looked up then, meeting Nia's eyes for the first time. "Because that's what we do. We back each other up even when—" He trailed off. "Even when you know it's wrong?" Lena finished. "Yes." The admission hung in the air. Rourke continued talking, describing other incidents, times when reports were modified after the fact, when body cam footage conveniently disappeared. His words poured out like he had been waiting for permission to speak them. Nia sat perfectly still, watching the man who had helped humiliate her now humiliate himself with the truth. It didn't feel like victory yet, just a necessary step toward justice. The deposition lasted another hour. By the end, Rourke had provided details about departmental cover-ups, Mercer's history of targeting specific residents, and the implicit understanding that officers would support each other's versions of events regardless of facts. Back in her office that afternoon, Lena worked rapidly to incorporate the new evidence and testimony into updated legal filings. Nia watched her attorney move with focused intensity, adding exhibits, revising claims, and strengthening their demands for a public hearing. "This goes beyond individual misconduct now," Lena explained as she worked. "We can prove systemic issues, deliberate indifference to rights violations, and active concealment by department leadership." She paused her typing, looking at Nia. "Are you ready for what comes next?" A public hearing means everything comes out, not just what happened to you, but all of it. The whole pattern, the whole system. They'll fight harder than ever to stop that from happening. "I'm ready," Nia said firmly. "They thought they could make me disappear. I want everyone to see exactly why they were wrong." Lena nodded and returned to her work, her fingers flying over the keyboard as she prepared the documents that would force everything into the light. Morning sunlight glinted off the courthouse's marble steps as camera flashes created a strobing effect around the entrance. Reporters jostled for position, microphones thrust forward like spears. The media presence was unprecedented for a civil hearing, drawing crowds that spilled onto the sidewalk. Nia Brooks emerged from a black sedan, her posture impeccable in a crisp navy suit. The outfit was carefully chosen, professional but not flashy, confident but not arrogant. Lena Whitaker stepped out behind her, carrying a sleek briefcase that held the evidence that would change everything. "Ms. Brooks, how do you respond to claims that this is attention-seeking?" a reporter shouted. "Any comment on Officer Mercer's statement about proper procedure?" Lena's hand touched Nia's elbow lightly, guiding her through the chaos. They moved in perfect sync, neither rushing nor hesitating. Nia's face remained composed, though her heart hammered against her ribs. Every eye in the city seemed to be on her, some supportive, others skeptical, all intense. Inside the courthouse, their footsteps echoed on polished floors. The hearing room was already packed when they entered. The wooden benches creaked with the weight of spectators, and the air felt thick with anticipation. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, catching dust motes that danced in the tense atmosphere. Officer Mercer sat at the defense table, his uniform pressed and medals displayed. His usual swagger seemed forced now, his jaw tight. Gloria Pike perched in the front row behind him, her expensive outfit and perfectly styled hair a stark contrast to her nervous fidgeting. Officer Rourke was notably absent. His testimony would come later. The judge entered, and the room rose. After preliminary statements, Lena stood, her movements deliberate. She approached the audiovisual setup with measured steps. "Your Honor, I'd like to present evidence recovered from Ms. Brooks's home security system," she said, her voice clear and steady. "This footage shows the moments immediately preceding and during the incident in question." The screen flickered to life. The image quality was surprisingly clear. Reverend Brooks had invested in good equipment. The timestamp showed the exact date and time, leaving no room for doubt about its authenticity. The first segment played. Mercer's patrol car pulled up. The camera's angle captured him approaching Nia's vehicle, leaning in to look through the window. The registration card was clearly visible on the passenger seat. Mercer's hand even touched the document briefly before he straightened up and called Rourke over. A murmur rippled through the courtroom. Mercer's shoulders tensed visibly. "As we can see," Lena said, her tone precise, "Officer Mercer had direct visual confirmation of ownership documentation before initiating contact." The footage continued. Gloria Pike appeared at the edge of the frame, approaching Mercer before he confronted Nia. The audio was crystalline, picking up every word of their exchange. "That girl has no business in a car like that," Gloria's voice rang out, dripping with disdain. "I've been watching her for weeks. Something's not right." Mercer's response was equally clear. "We'll sort her out." The reaction in the room was immediate. Someone gasped. A reporter's pen clattered to the floor. Gloria's face flushed deep red as her own words exposed her prejudice to the entire city. The city's attorney stood quickly. "Your Honor, this footage wasn't part of the original discovery." "Because it was recently recovered," Lena countered smoothly. "We submitted it according to procedure as soon as it was found. The defense has had the required time to review it." The judge's expression had changed, his earlier neutral demeanor hardening as he watched the scene unfold on screen. "Objection overruled. Continue, Ms. Whitaker." The next segment showed the arrest itself from an angle the body cams hadn't captured. It clearly displayed Mercer's aggressive approach, the unnecessary force, the way he twisted Nia's arm even as she complied. Most damaging was the audio of him dismissing her attempts to prove ownership. proof he had already seen. Mercer's face had lost its color. His attorney whispered something urgently, but he seemed barely to hear it. The carefully constructed narrative of proper procedure and reasonable suspicion was crumbling in real time. Reporters' fingers flew across phone keyboards. The story was already spreading beyond the courtroom walls. The city's carefully maintained version of events was being rewritten with irrefutable evidence. The footage ended with Nia being placed in the patrol car. The screen went dark, and the silence that followed was absolute. Even the usual shuffling and whispers that filled courtrooms had ceased. The truth hung in the air, impossible to deny or explain away. The judge looked at his notes for a long moment before speaking. "Ms. Brooks," he said, his tone notably different from earlier, "please take the stand." Nia rose from her chair, feeling the weight of every eye in the room. Her steps were measured, unhurried. She had waited for this moment, not just to speak, but to be heard. The noise of the camera's clicking faded into background static as she focused on maintaining her composure. The polished wood of the witness stand felt cool under her hands as she took her seat. She adjusted her position slightly, squared her shoulders, and raised her chin. Her father's voice echoed in her memory. Truth doesn't need drama to be powerful. She was ready. Nia settled into the witness stand, the polished wood cool beneath her hands. Camera shutters clicked rapidly, but she kept her focus straight ahead. This wasn't just about her anymore. It was about every person who'd ever been dismissed, disbelieved, or degraded by those meant to protect them. "Ms. Brooks," Lena began, her voice steady and clear, "please tell the court about the afternoon of April 15th. "I had just returned home from work," Nia said, her voice carrying through the hushed courtroom. "I was tired, but happy. I'd closed a big deal for my business and was planning to finalize the paperwork for a storefront lease the next day." She paused, letting the contrast sink in. Then 2 police cars pulled up. She described the next moments in careful detail. Mercer and Rourke rushing her, the immediate aggression, the feeling of being slammed against her own car. Her words painted a vivid picture of confusion, turning to fear, then to humiliation as neighbors gathered to watch. "I kept telling them the car was mine," she continued. "I had the keys in my hand. My ID showed the same address as the registration. But Officer Mercer wasn't interested in facts. He'd already decided who I was and what I deserved." The judge leaned forward slightly, his expression intent. In the gallery, several people nodded in recognition of similar experiences. Even after Officer Rourke confirmed the car was registered to me, Officer Mercer changed tactics. He claimed the plates might be fraudulent, with no evidence. He said I was being combative when I was simply stating facts. The truth didn't matter to him. Lena guided her through specific moments captured on the garage footage. "How did you feel when Ms. Pike approached Officer Mercer before your arrest?" "Betrayed," Nia answered, her composure unwavering despite the emotion behind the word. "She's lived across the street for years. She saw me grow up there. She knew exactly who I was, but she chose to see me as something suspicious, something that didn't belong." Gloria Pike shifted uncomfortably in her seat, unable to meet anyone's gaze. "What happened after your arrest?" Lena asked. "They tried to erase me," Nia said firmly. "The department's statement painted me as aggressive and uncooperative. Officer Mercer's report included lies about my behavior, lies that could have been used against me in the future. My business started losing clients. The bank froze my expansion loan. But worse than all that was watching the truth get buried under procedure and policy." The city's attorney attempted to challenge her account, but Lena methodically presented evidence supporting every detail. The body cam footage, the garage security video, the documentation of Nia's ownership. Piece by piece, the defense's arguments crumbled. "Your Honor," Lena addressed the judge, "the evidence shows not just misconduct, but deliberate targeting and subsequent attempts to cover it up." Officer Mercer ignored proof of ownership he'd already seen. He escalated a peaceful situation into an arrest. Then he filed false reports to justify his actions. The judge's expression had grown increasingly stern as the evidence mounted. He looked directly at Mercer, who had lost all traces of his earlier arrogance. "Ms. Brooks," the judge said, turning back to Nia, "what do you want from these proceedings?" Nia sat straighter, her voice clear and steady. "I want accountability. Not just for me, but for everyone who's been profiled, disbelieved, or mistreated. I want officers like Mercer and Rourke to understand they can't abuse their power without consequences. I want my neighbors to know that truth matters more than assumptions." The judge nodded slowly, then delivered his ruling with unmistakable conviction. He condemned the officers' conduct in explicit terms, calling out both the initial profiling and the subsequent attempt to cover it up. He ordered immediate termination for both Mercer and Rourke, pending review for criminal charges related to false reporting and civil rights violations. The city's representatives, seeing their position completely undermined, huddled briefly with their legal team. The lead attorney stood, looking decidedly uncomfortable. "Your Honor, the city is prepared to accept Ms. Brooks's settlement terms in full, including the $5 million payment and a public acknowledgement of wrongdoing." A low murmur rippled through the courtroom. This wasn't just a victory. It was a complete vindication. "Furthermore," the attorney continued, clearly under pressure, "the department will implement immediate reforms regarding stop procedures and complaint investigations." The judge's gavel crack echoed through the room, making the ruling official. For a moment, perfect silence held. Then a soft wave of reaction spread through the gallery. Not chaos or celebration, but the weighted release of long-held breath. Justice, clear and undeniable, had been served. Nia remained composed as she stepped down from the witness stand. Her aunt wiped tears from her eyes in the front row. Lena squeezed her shoulder gently as she passed. Outside, the afternoon sun had broken through the clouds, casting long shadows across the courthouse steps. A wall of cameras and microphones awaited, but Nia faced them differently now. She was no longer the young woman from the viral arrest video, no longer the victim seeking justice. She stood before them as someone who had fought the system and won, who had turned humiliation into vindication. The cameras flashed, capturing not her arrest, but her triumph. Reporters called out questions, their tone markedly different from that morning. Nia looked directly into the nearest camera, her dignity absolute. The story would be told again, but this time, truth had prevailed. The morning sun painted golden stripes across the freshly painted storefront. A crowd had gathered early, filling the parking lot with excited chatter and expectant energy. The Brooks Luxury Auto Care and Community Center sign gleamed above the entrance, its letters sharp and proud against the brick facade. Nia stood in front of the glass doors, keys in hand, taking in the moment. The same driveway where police had pinned her arms now overflowed with supporters. The garage where she'd once felt trapped by injustice had transformed into something powerful, a symbol of resilience and change. "Look at this turnout," Denise whispered, squeezing Nia's arm. Her aunt's eyes glistened with tears, but her smile radiated pride. "Your father would be so proud, baby girl." Customers from Nia's online business mingled with neighbors, many holding welcome gifts and congratulatory flowers. Local business owners who'd once distanced themselves now pressed forward, eager to establish connections. Even some who'd watched silently during her arrest had shown up, their presence a quiet acknowledgement of changed perspectives. Malik Turner moved through the crowd with his camera, capturing the stark contrast between this gathering and the footage that had first brought him to this street. He paused to interview supporters, collecting stories of how Nia's stand had inspired others to speak up about their own experiences. "Ready?" Denise asked, nodding toward the doors. Nia took a deep breath and stepped forward. The crowd quieted as she approached the microphone stand set up near the entrance. "Thank you all for being here," she began, her voice clear and confident. This day means more than just opening a business. It's about turning pain into purpose. She gestured to the newly renovated building behind her. Inside, you'll find two spaces. On one side, we're expanding our luxury auto care services. But the other side? Her smile widened. That's the real heart of this project. Nia motioned to a separate entrance marked Brooks Community Justice Center. My father taught me two things that saved me when I needed them most. Keep your receipts and never bow your head to a lie. Today, I'm announcing the Isaiah Brooks Legal Defense Fund. Every service we provide here will help support free legal assistance for people facing wrongful treatment by authorities. Applause erupted. In the crowd, several faces showed deep emotion, people who recognized their own struggles in her words. We're partnering with civil rights attorneys, she continued, nodding toward Lena Whitaker, who stood nearby. We'll provide emergency legal support, document collection assistance, and community advocacy training. Because sometimes the difference between justice and injustice is having someone believe you and knowing how to fight back. More applause filled the air. Denise dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, beaming with pride. The morning light caught the metallic finish of Nia's luxury car, parked prominently near the entrance. The same vehicle that had once been used to question her belonging now stood as a testament to her success. Several neighbors who'd once whispered suspicions now approached with business cards and partnership proposals. The center will also offer youth entrepreneurship programs, Nia announced, because success is the best answer to doubt. And every young person deserves to know they can build something nobody can take away. She smiled at a group of teenage girls who'd been following her story on social media. They clutched phones excitedly, no longer filming controversy but capturing inspiration. Malik panned his camera across the scene, focusing on the contrast between the professional business side and the community center entrance. His lens caught small details: the elegant auto care logo, the warm welcome sign for the Justice Center, the carefully maintained landscaping that spoke of attention to detail and pride. As Nia cut the ribbon across the main entrance, cheers erupted again. People began filing inside, admiring the modern equipment in the auto care section and the welcoming space of the community center. The walls displayed framed news articles about the case and its outcome, transformed from painful headlines into markers of progress. This is exactly what this neighborhood needed, a longtime resident told Malik's camera. Someone willing to stand up and then reach back to help others stand too. Denise worked her way through the crowd, greeting people with the warm energy that had helped sustain Nia through the darkest days of the legal battle. She paused often to share proud stories about her niece's determination, each word healing old wounds and building new bridges. The morning stretched on, full of handshakes and conversations. Business owners who'd once canceled contracts now waited patiently to discuss new opportunities. Community leaders who'd stayed silent during the arrest now openly praised her vision for combining commerce with justice. Outside, Nia took a moment to herself, standing beside her car in the bright sunlight. The vehicle gleamed, every curve and line a testament to hard work and earned success. Neighbors drove past, waving warmly instead of staring suspiciously. The street that had witnessed her humiliation now hosted her triumph. Her shoulders stayed straight, her gaze steady and forward. The same confidence that had carried her through court now powered her next chapter. She'd transformed from a target of suspicion into a force for change. No one questioned her presence or her success anymore. She'd made sure they never could again. If you enjoyed the story, leave a like to support my channel, and subscribe so that you do not miss out on the next one. On the screen, I have picked two special stories just for you. Have a wonderful day.